This is the Bat Pod.
Welcome to the Bat Pod, a Batman comic book discussion podcast. On today's show, we're going to be discussing Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Annual Number 1.
Grab your bat microphone, it's time to start the show. Like a court of owls, the mystery is starting to grow. Let there be no debate, it's about to begin. Keen like Bruce Wayne, quick like Tim Drake, fierce like Damien. Grab your headphones, listen up, you know you love it. Drop the facade. Like the Dark Knight detective, they've got some perspective. They're a pure crime-fighting collective. It's the Bat Pod.
Welcome to this episode of the Bat Pod. My name is Bill Bere. And tonight, we have a special guest. I've been looking forward to this for a little while. We couldn't schedule it here for a while. We've been going back and forth, but we finally have him on. From the Beyond the Bat Signal podcast, Domenic Iannicca. Is that close?
Yeah, you got it. Okay. It's pretty good. You might as well call you Italian for landing the last name. Pretty impressed. Bill, it's an absolute honor. And yes, we have been planning this for probably a year. And partially my fault. Actually, it's my fault. It's been a whirlwind of a past year where I know with we've had a little one in June, and it's been a very busy year for me. Quite the adjustment, including there's a whole home renovation, and and I appreciate the patience and still maintaining, reaching out, and wanting to do this.
No problem at all.
Really excited to be on.
This is fun. So, as I said up front, we're going to talk about Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Annual Number 1. It's we had come up with to discuss. Before we get started, though, if you'd like to join the conversation or emails the podcast at thebatpod.com, we are on Blue Sky, X, Facebook. Just search the Bat Pod podcast. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please consider giving us a review. We'd really appreciate it. And we'll read it right here on the podcast. So first up, since you're the guest, I wanted to get into, when I have guests on, I like to discuss, what got them into reading Batman and that sort of thing. So I want to know, what's your Batman comic book origin?
My Batman comic book origin, it all started with when I first got into comics. It was actually, I was in high school, and I was a big Batman fan years before, since I was probably 3, for as long as I can remember. And anyway, in high school, we had a little section in our library, and it had Batman collected editions, and the one that just kind of stuck out, it was Batman The Long Halloween. And that was my introduction. No one told me that, this is a good one to start off with. But now you hear about it and you're like, what are the recommendations? You hear year 1, Batman The Long Halloween as fantastic starters. So that was my intro. And, it was a collected edition. I still remember it was almost like, it was the hardcover. It was still with the blue, with the Batman with the cape. Mm-hmm. And that was my introduction. And to this day, I would say that is hands down my favorite Batman story.
That's awesome. That's a good one to start with, for sure.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a good one to start with. And then, you start talking to people that are kind of like, oh, they're into comics. And it's just through people I worked with. And they're like, you kind of need to, there's other ones that they start recommending. And year 1 was one, Killing Joke was another. These are all big staples. But without a doubt, I think the one thing that I love about The Long Halloween is it's a mystery crime, and you got the entire rogues gallery, and Batman, for me, has the best rogues gallery, bar none.
I agree. That's why I do a podcast, basically. No, just from listening, and anybody out there, we'll get to where to find this podcast here in a little bit. But you can definitely tell you get Batman. Just from listening to you podcasts, I can tell the passion and that sort of thing, that you really get this character. And that's the thing with some of these creators. You can tell when a creator gets Batman in his rogues gallery. It just all comes together nicely.
I appreciate that.
So, the next question I have for you, what is your podcast origin? How did you get into podcasting?
So this was, something where I was listening. There was a few Batman podcasts that I listened to, and I think being someone that just loves Batman content, whether it's through television, movies, and comics, and then all of a sudden, you start listening to podcasts, and you were one of those podcasts that I would be listening to and talking about Batman comics, and and it just, there was this time where I wanted to get out like everything that I wanted to talk Batman. And unfortunately, a lot of my friends are into the Batman comics or the movies as much as I am, and that follow it in great detail. The one person that would listen to me is the one person that doesn't really watch Batman at the time, which is my wife. Her and I were going back and forth. I'm like, I kind of feel like I want to start a podcast and just kind of do something different and still talk Batman. And also, I feel like I'm always going to be a student of learning about Batman and Batman lore, as it fascinates me. And because there's so much to know. As we can see, we're looking at Legends of the Dark Knight book here, but there's so many stories that you can learn about Batman. I just wanted to explore that. And then the whole path of learning how to even start up a podcast is, something totally new for me. And it was intimidating. And then once you kind of get the hang of it, but it's been a blast. It's actually just hitting the 2-year mark. But yeah, no, I've been loving every minute of it and trying to stay consistent, doing it almost bi-weekly and finding new topics. But it kind of gives me an opportunity to do some research. Like when I started, my first episode was learning about Bill Finger and the origin of Batman and the true origin of Batman and how he was created. And Bob Kane kind of took, all the glory behind it. And Bill Finger's name was never mentioned. You kind of search his name 10 years ago and you wouldn't find anything. There was only a few pictures there. But really, this man was the architect of who Batman is, and doing that research and just kind of blew me away, and I enjoyed it. And still, now, I'm looking at video games, comics, the movies, and looking at it in detail. And it's been a lot of fun. And I get to be on a show with you, a guy who I was listening to, and now we get to talk Batman. This is awesome.
That's cool. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, congratulations on your 2-year mark. I think consistency is hard. It's not as easy as you think, because we've gone through lulls where I think I just put out episode 209 this past week, and I think over those 200 and some episodes, there's been lulls of a few months here and there. It's just life gets in the way. And that sort of thing, and being consistent. And the thing about doing a podcast and being consistent, that's how you keep listeners, is by being consistent. When you sort of pod fade, you almost have to start over again because they don't know that you're still around.
Yeah. I have a question for you. How did you get started? I'm kind of curious about that one.
Okay. So I'm going in the Wayback Time Machine to 2006. I had iTunes on my computer where you could put them on an iPod, you could download music, and I found a section that had podcasts. And then there was comic book podcasts. So what I would do, and this is 20 years ago basically now, I would take rewritable CD, I'd put it in my computer, and I would burn these podcasts. And there was 2 comic book podcasts back then. It was Raging Bullets and Comics Geek Speak. And I would burn them on the CD, and I would listen to them on my drive to work. But then when the next episodes come out, I would have to burn them again. I was always shy and that sort of thing. So when I went into the comic shops, I wanted to talk about these sort of things. And hearing these podcasts, and it's I think I could do that. So somewhere around when the New 52 started, it was around 2011-ish, somewhere around there. I just went on social media and said, anybody want to do a Batman podcast? And I had somebody reply to me, and we did it. It was the first version of the Bat Pod, and we went like 50 episodes through the new 52, and then it kind of dropped off after that. There was different versions of it, but this version of this podcast started in 2018, and sort of the same way. I got invited on a few different podcasts talking about Batman. They said, why aren't you podcasting about Batman? And I said, the biggest thing is I don't think I could do it solo. I think for me, doing it solo is really hard. Now, I've done a few solo podcasts, but I always like to have somebody that I can bounce stuff off of, that sort of thing. So I've gone through a few different co-hosts, life gets in the way sometimes and people can't continue and that sort of thing. So, but it's been a lot of fun. I
love hearing people's opinions, especially when it's like about one particular comic book, especially with your guests, right? Like it's like, what is your opinion versus someone else's opinion? And it does create interesting discussion.
My podcast usually has a little comedy in it that I call comedy, but it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but that's why it's my show,
Yeah.
And if you do a show, I always wanted to do something different than somebody else is doing. I didn't want it to be the same, so I kind of tried to make it my own. Because there are a lot of good shows out there, but basically that's how I got here today, and it's just fun. It's fun talking about these books. It's fun. And now, way back when, I didn't think I could actually get on a podcast and talk because I was so shy. I've kind of gotten out of that shyness, and I can go to Comic-Cons and that sort of thing and talk to other people, and it sort of helped me with that shyness for sure.
Like-minded thinkers, and it's a shared commonality too, right? It's something that we both enjoy, and it's like boom. But this kind of gets you out of your shell too,
yes.
When having conversations and whatnot, and just to think, right? Like it's like, hey, who wants to come on a Batman podcast? And then all of a sudden, boom, you just meet someone through the internet, and you kind of hit it off and build that chemistry and talk Batman because it's this shared common interest. This is exactly what you'd kind of do in a school year if you think about it. It's like, whether it was trading cards or, playing, basketball, like it's a shared interest. It's the same thing. Love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I haven't actually met any of my co-hosts in person before.
No, neither have I.
Now, I've met some of the guests we've had on because I go to a couple of the cons. One's in Baltimore, and then I go to this con called Heroes Con that's in North Carolina the last few years. So I have met some of these other podcasters that I've had on or been on their shows. So that's been kind of fun to meet people. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to head to our book.
Come on, Robin. To the Batcave. We haven't one moment to lose.
Hello there. Come on in and welcome to the Fantastic Pour. I am your host, Brett Young, and this is the podcast serving up comics, cocktails, and conversation for your listening pleasure. Every episode, I'll welcome a guest to the Fantastic Lounge to explore one of their favorite comic book characters and cover a classic story in which they're featured. And what pairs better with great literature than a delicious drink? Based on my guest's ingredient of choice, we'll mix up a cocktail or mocktail to enjoy in the Fantastic Lounge while we talk comics, mixology, history, and whatever else comes to mind. So join me every month for the Fantastic Pour, open for business by the Fire and Water Podcast Network.
So our book tonight is Batman Legends of the Dark Knight Annual 1. It's annual from 1991. And I'm going to go over the creative team here. And it's a list of creative team. It really is. Your writer is Dennis O'Neil. Pencilers, Jim Aparo, Keith Giffen, Joe Quesada, Tom Lyle, Dan Spiegel, James Blackburn. Your inkers are Jim Aparo, Malcolm Jones III, Joe Rubenstein, Ty Templeton, Dan Spiegel, Michael Golden, colorist Steve Olaf, letterer Jim Aparo, Janice Chang, Willie Schubert. We got a cover by Mike Mangola, and your editor is Archie Goodwin. And speaking of this cover, it's Batman and the Dark Knight Annual 1 there at the top. We got Batman holding a sword with what looks to be a dragon in the background. What did you think of this cover?
Intriguing. You see dual right at the bottom, and I don't mean dual with dual as in like two. I mean dual as in like, he's going to a sword fight, and Batman looks like he's been through war. And in the background, it's something that definitely sticks out. Holding it up right now as I got the copy, and I'm like, oh, I can't make of what this. It does look like a dragon, but. And, looking at it now, and I'm just realizing that this dragon's actually holding a sword in the back.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and I'm just noticing it right now. But it almost looks like it's, almost symbolism for something. I'm not quite sure. But it's like that dark, I want to use a Dexter reference and call it the dark passenger that's right behind him. But you see like the long tail, and it almost has like human legs. And I'm not quite sure what to make of. It almost looks like a shield right here. And I'm holding it up to the screen.
Yep.
I'm not sure what that is, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite cover, but something that really just stands out, especially when it comes to the line of Legends of the Dark Knight. Yeah, no, it definitely looks something where Batman's just going to go through a gauntlet. That's what it feels like.
Yes. And you have Batman with a sword and a dragon, and you're thinking when you look at this cover, okay, what is going on here? Because this is not your average Batman comic where he goes to fight a dragon.
Yeah, no. The only time I think of it is when he's fighting Ra's al Ghul. You do see Ra's al Ghul and make a small little appearance on a panel.
So in this issue, across a frozen mountain range, Batman carries a green bag to the monastery where he trained. Passing his old master's grave, inside, the master tells him to abandon his path or embrace it fully. Batman chooses to embrace it and steps through a door, calling the bag his burden. He falls into a series of nightmarish trials. A demon in a fiery cave tries to claim his burden. A shifting princess reveals as Talia al Ghul tempts him with blood and lies. And an alien invades Washington, D.C., demanding mass sacrifice. Batman defeats each foe without breaking his moral code, even offering the alien mercy. The visions grow stranger: gangsters, undead soldiers, tank commanded by Adolf Hitler, until Hitler transforms into the Joker. The truth? There were no demons or aliens. The Joker struck Batman in the head during a brutal trek through the snowy mountains of Korea, and the hallucinations began after they passed the Master's grave. Batman has been carrying the injured Joker in a green bag all along. When the Joker asks him why he doesn't kill, Batman answers simply, taking a life would make him no better than his enemies. And he refuses to give the Joker the satisfaction of proving him wrong. No, so this is a book, and I'm going to be honest with you. The first time I read this, I didn't like it. I was like, what did I really read? And was I mature enough to understand exactly what's going on? Now, when I revisited this most recently, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
I have a couple questions, but first, like, when you first read it, did you understand it? Plain
Not
simple,
really.
No, neither did I.
No, I didn't understand what it was like. What the heck is going on here?
Yep. And it's almost like it requires a second reading because you're like, there's something deeper to this annual comic book, which, I mean, hold on. Before I get into the specifics, I don't like you kind of listed off, you did, with Danny O'Neill and then the whole list of artists or the pencilers that did this, which kind of blew me away. Now, in my version here, like it has like the script and then it has the pencils and which pages they did.
Which pages, yep.
It's awesome. Now, that was one, I thought that was very special. Now, when rereading it, I found that I gained a sense of a little bit more of an understanding, but I also kind of took my time and tried to like kind of break down everything. The one thing that really did the vibes I actually got from this book was, did Chris Nolan look at this and kind of use some inspiration into Batman Begins? Because that's a little bit of what I felt. What if I'm not? I don't know who this guy was at the beginning. I'm not sure if it was Descartes, if I'm not mistaken. I can't tell. He was trained by him 20 years ago, and you can tell that it's somewhere in the Icelands and like somewhere where it's cold
Yep.
and just uncomfortable. And it looks like Batman has to go through another psychological gauntlet, which again, if we remember from Batman Begins, there was that blue flower and, he had to inhale it. And then all of a sudden it's like he's going through something where he's not thinking straight. But yeah, no, this to me was like, I felt like rereading it a second time felt more of like, it had a lot more psychological depth than a straightforward Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. Like there was something deeper to this, in my opinion.
And I think me reading, being a little older, I kind of, anytime that I read something, especially for a podcast that I'm trying to interpret or say, okay, exactly what's going on here, I have to read it twice. But the first time I read it, I have to let a few days go by, sort of for it to sink in. And then I go back and I reread it again. And when I went back this time and reread it a second time, it's sort of, the pieces of the puzzle sort of stuck together.
Yeah.
Because we get at the beginning here, as said, he's walking through the snow carrying this green bag.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to this monastery and where he was training, and you get the feeling that he's going through this gauntlet, almost. And it feels like that this is, well, we are being deceived actually what's happening, because it's more of in his mind that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
But when we jump into the first part here where he is talking to him and he wants to give him two choices. Abandon the destiny and the pride which fuels it and become humble and find peace. That is the first choice. And then he's like, what's the second choice? And he's like, embrace your destiny. Enter deeply into it. Go further than you ever gone before until you find what lies at the heart. And I found that very interesting, that he's giving a choice. Legends of the Dark Knight seems to be earlier in Batman's career.
Yeah.
All these stories. So that would make sense that he's being tested.
And it tells me right away that right off the bat, I thought, okay, traveling to be his destiny, it's like, to continue on and be Batman, or just live in peace and let this burden, and it's what we know as readers, we don't know what's in this bag. We just know that it's heavy and it's weighing him down. And the symbolism behind that is a given. And it's just, like something that's just so heavy, and it kind of, slows him down, and it just kind of restricts him from anything that he's able to do, because it's unfortunate burden. Though that part really stuck out to me. And then if you look at the page prior, on page 4, the line here, it looks like a flashback. Some great violence has marked you. It gives you your genius for combat technique. Unless you are very lucky, it will destroy you. When I read that and it says like some great violence has marked you, and I think immediately the experience that Bruce Wayne had, which was deep trauma, which was his parents' death, and that trauma isn't just a memory, but it really shaped him to his core. And then the following part is it gives you your genius for combat technique. And what I interpreted from it was his pain, and that kind of fuels his obsession and discipline. And the discipline is to not kill, and it's the same emotional wound that kind of drives his relentless training of kind of that he has to be the best and maintain that focus of what his mission is, and it's to take down Gotham's underworld and criminals, and never allow anyone else kind of go through what he went through, right? That's the whole mission. And to me, it's that tactical brilliance and kind of understanding the mind of the opponent. And then the final line where it says, unless you're very lucky, it will destroy you. And I thought of, well, okay, that trauma can be a double-edged sword. It's the thing that motivates him, can also consume him mentally, emotionally, or physically if he can't keep it under control, meaning like he can build this rage towards Gotham criminals, and he can easily do what Batman doesn't do, is kill, right? And that's kind of what keeps him down. He always walks that line. It doesn't consume him. And for some reason, that line kind of sticks out to me. And I immediately think of Batman Forever, where Val Kilmer, I thought, did an excellent job. And it's Bruce talking to Dick and saying, if you kill Two-Face, then what? And you kill another and another and another. And it just kind of struck home. And it's like, you still don't get that satisfaction, right? Like, it doesn't heal anything. And I really, really love that line. And it just, what you said and what I thought, that line that I just read aloud, was it understands Bruce Wayne to its core. And of course, Daniel O'Neil, he was the one who wrote it. So
yeah. And that's what the theme of this entire book is, he has this code, and, I think at times he even thinks of, even though he has this code, I think he has trouble with it at times, because in his mind it would be like, okay, it would be so easy to take this person out forever, and that would solve a lot of problems, but it would create more problems. And that's where you have the fine line between his code and his thinking and that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and like, you go through this comic and it's a little different. Like, it's strange. Like, I was expecting more of like a rogues gallery. We get like a little taste of it, but it's more through just flashbacks. And then you're seeing these weird monsters, and you can kind of tell, like, okay, like Batman's definitely hallucinating. It seems like there's two voices in his head, which at first when reading this comic, I didn't fully understand it. And then I'm like, okay, like maybe, because you look at it and there's like white internal dialogue, and then there's ones that are in red. And the white I interpret as, well, like that's the good, the angel. And I'm trying to see, is it the id or the ego? And I'm trying to remember. But anyway, I don't want to confuse myself, the audience, or anyone else. But and then the red, it almost seems like it's like that devil that's on the shoulder saying, no, you should be doing this, and antagonizing him, like, why don't you?
It sort of gives away who that is, when we get into the hell scene and you see the big smiling creature.
Oh man, I never even thought about that. Wow, right in front of my face too. Yeah, look at that.
And he's tempted there. He's tempted. He wants him to kill him. Kill this creature. Come on, cross the line that you haven't been able to cross.
And that's so typical Joker, where he just wants him to push him over the edge. All you need is one big push. And he keeps pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And, he still holds that burden and stays calm and collected. I'm curious, what did you think of the artwork throughout the evolving pencilers throughout this comic?
I really liked it overall. Some I like better than others, but the art felt for each scene that we got. It's almost like, for those who haven't read this story, almost think you're in a house and you have different doors, and you open a door and you go to a different dimension. It's sort of like that. It sort of feels like he's opening these doors, going to a different, but it all feels different. Now, I don't know if you ever read any 80s Dr. Fate with Giffen and DeMatteis.
No.
This hell scene in this book is identical, because Giffen did the artwork for the 4-issue miniseries of Dr. Fate. It's identical to how it looks in that mini. And that kind of brought it back. It almost felt kind of perfect for this particular scene, which that's the one I really recognized. Some of the others, I couldn't tell you by looking at it, oh, that's who this is. Some of them, but some not. But I felt, the different scenes had a different flair with the art.
Yeah, they definitely had a different flair. Like I loved, it was interesting to kind of see how it evolved, especially when the alien arrived.
Mm-hmm.
It just gave me almost instantaneous, like it felt very retro, very 70s for
Yes.
me, even though that this was written in 1991. And then you have this alien show up out of nowhere. And, I was trying to understand, like, okay, like this is obviously a metaphor. And I wasn't sure like what it was trying to stand for, but this opponent kind of morphs into this alien. And then I'm like, is this Batman's fear of unknown or extraterrestrial threat? And I'm like, maybe not, but maybe it's the idea of understanding Batman not understanding this criminal, and which kind of eventually leads us to the Joker, because Joker's someone that we can't fully understand, right? You look at this, and even the colors are so unique, and you can just see how it quickly just morphs and changes, but it changes with each setting. Yeah, like where you see kind of Talia al Ghul, and she goes from long hair, and then all of a sudden it's all tied up. And even Batman just kind of looks completely different. And he's like a vampire at this one point where it almost looks like blood just coming out of his mouth, but he's drinking wine, I suppose. Then this dragon comes out of nowhere, and then just, I don't know, so interesting. But he still continues to maintain and protect that green bag, regardless of what he's going through.
He does protect that green bag, his burden.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I noticed in these scenes is, and we'll go back to what I said the theme kind of is his code and not killing. He had a chance to kill this dragon.
Yes.
He went about it in another way. When you go to the alien, he had a chance to kill the alien. He did not do it. So it's like he's being tempted with his code on almost every aspect. He even saves one of the gangsters that is the gangster that's in a burning building here.
Yes.
One of the gangsters he saves. A lot of it seems like it has to do with his code a lot.
Yep. To the point where, I mean, you got easily probably one of the most evil human beings to ever step on this planet, of Adolf Hitler.
Right.
Does he not? Like, I'm trying to fast forward here, and he even, like, obviously Adolf Hitler, Batman eventually does help up, but like you see the face evolve from Adolf Hitler to Joker, which, I mean, and Joker takes it as a compliment, where he's like, what? Like the Der Fuhrer, and wow, that's such a compliment. And I love, very Joker-esque. I was gonna mention that even with the Prohibition era, probably my favorite part of that story, I was like, wow, like they're going way back in time. And I'm like, why is it that they would go to the Prohibition era? Like, what is it? And it's like, and it's such classic crime where, you have like the old school machine guns, old school cars. And I'm like, is it the same type of criminals that Bruce was trained to fight, which was organized crime, to bring it back to his origin and his, Gotham's roots of organized crime? It kind of raises that question. But you're right. Like, it does force him to, one, not kill and make those decisions. And like you see it, well, fortunately for Bruce, like, he's walking out and saving those who could easily have been killed, walks out of the fire, saves Joker. The one question that Jason Todd frequently will ask Batman is like, you had a chance. Why didn't you do that? Meaning kill Joker for me, right? And it's the one thing, it would be just so easy, right? Like, you wouldn't have this burden, which makes sense. Like, you wouldn't have this burden. Like, you wouldn't have to lose another Robin. You wouldn't have anyone to lose. Like, you wouldn't have to, Barbara got shot. Jason Todd got killed. Like, there's this burden that, like, you don't have to worry about anymore. But that's like what I find that Christian Bale's characters, that says that's what separates us from them.
Yes.
And I love it.
I don't know. You get to think about this burden And of course, it's like a metaphor in here, but we do find out that it's Joker and the injured Joker in this bag. But that is part of his burden, because that's the question in here of his code. Should he kill the Joker? Should not he kill the Joker? And there's some amazing writing done in here, especially the dialogue. When we do find out, this is the Joker. He's been dragging his burden, which he calls the Joker. And then he started to hallucinate, from this head injury and the different things. He even said, we were having turkey and you were talking about it's jerky, not turkey, and different things. And it kind of makes sense that he's going in and out of consciousness because of this head injury. But we get there to the Joker, where he asks the question. And I just wanted to go through some of the dialogue here. And he's like, will you do it? Kill me? Release the burden that torments both of us? And he goes, no, I want to. I've never wanted anything so much, but I won't. Because if I did, I'd be violating the belief that has sustained me all these years. I believe in the absolute sacredness of human life. I may not believe in anything else. And then he does say, he says, and I refuse to give in to the satisfaction of you seeing me fail in that act. And he says, that makes you absolutely miserable, doesn't it?
Yes. I'm like smiling right now because I'm waiting for it. Very Joker-esque. And where Joker's like, how disgustingly noble of you. That part. I hear Mark Hamill's voice when he says that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, the relationship between the Joker. Here's the question that I want to ask you. Do you feel that the Joker wants him to kill him?
I do. I think that that's the greatest joke of all.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's, if he can convince Batman to kill, and it's like, that's his whole mission, and it's...
He's won.
Yeah, that he's won. And it's not that he kills Batman because, why would he want to kill him, right? It's too much fun. And he'd rather torment him by tormenting the ones that Batman loves. I think we see that in other Batman stories when it comes to, like, Jason Todd. You see even, like, how he torments Jim Gordon and he torments Barbara Gordon. It's like, no, he'd rather see Batman live and torment him in other ways. And the best joke of all would be for Batman to kill Joker. And I think he does want him to do it.
Yes.
And it's to push him in ways where he can see Batman break. We see it Batman's close, like he's close, but no, he never goes over that edge. Quite frankly, like, I know there's that argument of like, and maybe I'm kind of curious, like, how do you feel? Do you feel like Batman's someone that should kill? Like, we've seen some movies with 89, BVS. Where do you stand on that?
Well,
his code.
I love his code. His code is like what makes him Batman. That is the one thing. Now, when you get to the movies, it's hard because you have to have entertainment for everybody, but you don't have to put guns on the Batmobile. That doesn't need to be. That's not a Batman thing. There's some things you can do. I understand things happen and falling off a roof or something like that. But dropping him on purpose, yeah, I don't like the idea of that. I mean, I like most of those movies. My least favorite is him having guns on a Batmobile. That really bothered me.
Yeah. I see no purpose in it either. And like, my favorite Batmobile is Batman 89. That one had guns, but I don't think he used it to his enemies.
Right. No, he opened it to like go through a wall or something like that, if I recall correctly. But no, I think in real life, there are things going to happen and people are going to die. Realistically. I mean, you can keep your code and things are going to happen. Like when you throw punches or something and somebody lands wrong or something like that. It's hard. But in the movies, I want to see him as close to keeping the code as possible.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, especially right there with you. Big thing for me. I don't know. Zack Snyder's like,
yeah.
That's a little old school. Like, no, I disagree.
Have you read any newer Batman comics recently?
No, I have. Well, hold on. I haven't been keeping up with the Batman that you've been doing on your show. I've been keeping up actually through your show. I know that noticed that you guys have been really enjoying it. It seems like Matt Fraction's really been doing an excellent job. What the I have been reading lately is, and I just did reviews on it, was Batman: The Last Halloween.
Yep.
Batman Hush 2, which I have, is that next issue coming out in March? I have no idea. I hope. I do enjoy, I think, like, I'm waiting to see, I'm kind of reserving my thoughts. I enjoy the Hush 2. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I am enjoying it. It's just, I'm waiting to see the book as a whole because I feel like there's Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb, they're dropping breadcrumbs, and I want to see what they kind of make out of this. But overall, it's still got my attention, but those are the most recent comic books I've been reading.
So can I recommend one to you?
Fire away.
So Tom Taylor is on Detective Comics.
Mm-hmm.
In his first arc, and I don't have the numbers right before me, it's like almost to 1100. It's like 1090 something he started. I think it's around 1090. But there is, the first arc has to do with his code and with his father. I recommend reading that because it is excellent as far as why Batman had his code without changing anything like continuity in the past.
Yeah.
But it's an excellent story.
And I remember you loving also not even just the story alone, but the art as well. I feel like the art has such a big part in it.
Yep.
I'm trying to use this thing called Google, and I'm looking. I can't find it right now. But I even noticed that they even actually released a collected edition as well as part of it. Like just the first couple of. Anyway, I will get back to you on this as I Google along. But yeah, so you recommend it now, and does it change his origin in any way?
No, it doesn't change his origin at all.
No. Interesting.
But yeah, that's really good, and even the second story in there has piqued my interest. But no, in regards of his code, that sort of thing, that's why I was bringing it up, because we were talking about it in this book. So
I'm looking forward. That would be someone that I know I've heard your guys' reviews, and the one thing is, even if I get DC. Was it DC
Infinite app?
And to me, where you're just getting, or Infinite Ultimate or Ultra.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would be worth it because you're kind of keeping up. And
if
you like it, then you buy the hard copy.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been keeping up on all of the, I've been reading all the Batman stuff since like the late 80s. So
would you say arguably for the first time in maybe a little while that Batman is almost firing on all cylinders? It seems like, especially for fans, like we're really benefiting.
Mm-hmm.
We got The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, Hush, where Jim Lee's drawing, and then you have Batman have a new fresh start with for one, and then even Detective Comics, and it seems like they're all doing well. Then you have Dark Patterns, you have Batman and Robin, I believe it was Batman and Robin year one, that all seem to be doing so well. Talk about being a great time to be a Batman fan.
It is. That Dark Patterns book is especially good. That was surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
The year one is phenomenal. I mean, I haven't read anything that was, I could say, oh, I didn't really like that. In a while, it's been a little bit. Because it's all been pretty good.
Yeah.
And even the Batman and Robin book, it's ending like this month, I believe. But they did some stuff to Damian in that book that gives him more personality. Oh. He's less of one-dimensional. They kind of started, there was a Robin book. Maybe it went 12 issues, maybe about 3 or 4 years ago, by Joshua Williamson. That kind of started Damian and some of his backstory, which I found very interesting, and they kind of continued it on in this book, which I liked. I mean, I could keep recommending stuff, and you're like, oh, more stuff to read.
No, it's a good thing, though. I'll even use some an app called Hoopla, and it's like right before bed, I'll do some quick reading too. But if there's a story that can get me to like Damien, I'm intrigued because he bothers me so much. Maybe that's the whole point, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing too to kind of have a Robin that just kind of bugs you and gets under your skin, and it kind of changes things up a bit, especially for Batman and Batman stories and whatnot. But yeah, like I love anytime you can give me Dick Grayson Robin, I'm there. I love it. And then even not Jason Todd. Oh my God, Tim Drake, which was interesting to me as to what they're doing with Tim Drake now. And then the other one that I was going to point out, and I can't believe I didn't mention it, was Absolute Batman.
Oh.
Is that a bad O?
No, I absolutely love that book.
Wow. Okay. I haven't read it yet.
If you can
there
see,
it is in the
you
background
can't
right
see
there.
in the background.
I do.
I have a couple signed because I met Scott Snyder and Nick Dragata last year and got them to sign when #1 came out.
Wow.
But no, I love that book. It's very dark. And have you read it at all?
No. That's something I'm getting to without a doubt. Kind of intrigued because I hear like it's such a different universe, but what I've been told was it sticks to Batman to its core. I'm kind of interested, and then eventually I'll formulate an opinion, but looks different.
His code is a little different in there. I believe he still has his code, but he comes very close to breaking that, but with not actually breaking. But he has a different background. The murder of his parents happened differently without spoiling anything. The way that Arkham Asylum is in there is really interesting. It's a very dark version of Gotham. I'd never want to live in this Gotham. The current Gotham, it would be okay to visit occasionally.
Sounds like paradise.
But yeah, absolute Batman's Gotham, no. That's like a death sentence.
Man. Yeah, that's kind of like based on the images I've seen popped up online, you can kind of get that sense. And then from what my understanding is that Darkseid created that universe. So,
Yeah, that's where it gets a little complicated. Darkseid, you don't actually see Darkseid in any of the books, or you haven't. But even Wonder Woman has been pretty good. It's like a different. You don't even need to know any background about any of these characters. But if you do know like Batman, then his rogues are kind of cool to see a different version.
Yeah, which I'm open for.
Yeah.
Right. I had a question when it comes. I'm not sure if you wanted to circle back to this book.
Yes.
And it was, did you have we had so many different pencilers on this book. Was there one particular part that kind of just stuck out to you as like, love it when it comes to the artwork?
Well, it's definitely Jim Aparo.
Yeah.
That's the art that I love the best, but he might be one of my favorite artists, so that kind of makes sense there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Jim Aparo was definitely. Even I saw like some of the names I saw was even Joe Quesada. That stuck out to me, and Jim Aparo obviously, yeah. But no, definitely Jim Aparo was my favorite part as well.
Tom Lyle, who did Robin miniseries and a Robin series with Tim Drake. So there are a lot of names there that are very familiar. Some I'm not as familiar with. And I tell you what, growing up and reading these books in the beginning, especially when I was a teenager and such, I didn't look at creative teams.
No.
I didn't. I just didn't pay attention to that sort of stuff. I thought, I like this, this artwork better than this, but I didn't really, back then I couldn't tell you who was doing what. But now I sort of paid attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
So before we move on from this book, do you have any final overall thoughts?
My overall thoughts are to give it a try. If you read it the first time and you don't understand it, listen, you're in great company. Myself and Bill, we fell in the same boat. But give it a second chance and take the time. It's I think 40 or no, over 50 pages. You got to just kind of let it soak in and take part and just kind of enjoy it. There's different pieces of artwork that kind of just stick out, and it really, in my opinion, ties up so well from the start of the book right to the end of the comic. And I don't know, I personally would recommend it. It understands Batman to its core, and it's Danny O'Neill who's writing this. So what more do you want?
Definitely. I mean, it feels like something that delves into his code a little bit. It's not something that I was expecting, but overall, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the first time I read it, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
If you read it, you might get something that we're not getting out of it, because there's a lot of different stories that I'm sure have some sort of reason why he's going up against the gangsters and that sort of thing. I did a different thing that maybe we hadn't thought about, but I don't know.
Yeah, like, the Talia part, I'm like, okay, well, what is that telling me? And then she kind of turns into like a vampire, from my understanding. I'm like, okay, is that like a bat thing? I'm not sure. Still, listen, I love books that you can kind of go back to and read and get a different grasp on or a different understanding. I appreciate that, especially when it comes to books like this. And it's a Legends of the Dark Knight book. Like, I love that whole series.
No, that's
I
a
enjoy
great
it.
series. Yep.
Yeah.
We've done several arcs of that series that we really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show here. I really had a good time and appreciate you joining me.
Bill, thank you so much for having me on. It's been truly an honor just to be on your show and even talk things Batman and even talk about this Batman Annual Legends of the Dark Knight. I really had a lot of fun rereading it and even just discussing it, kind of hearing your perspective too, because right off the bat, like, the one thing, I'm like, Joker's smile, like right there, staring me in the face. I didn't even see it.
Man, I didn't notice that the first time that I read that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was like that. So, do you want to let everybody know how they can listen to your show and that sort of thing?
For sure. The show's Beyond the Bat Signal. So where you can find me on Instagram is at Beyond the Bat Signal. Whereas on X/Twitter, it's Beyond Bat Signal. So you can follow me on the socials right there. And then if you want to follow along on the show, I'm on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, where if you just type in Beyond the Bat Signal, you'll find my show right there and give it a listen.
Absolutely, and I can tell you it's some good stuff.
I appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you on an episode.
Absolutely, anytime.
That'd be awesome. Right on.
So we want to thank Domenic for being on. So we'll be back to our regular episode. So until next time, same bat time, same bat channel. We will see you later.